All right, welcome ladies and gentlemen to week number 48 Open Live Q&A. My name is Mr. McLogan, and thank you so much for joining me tonight, where I will plan on going over your questions as well as letting you guys know why I allow my students to take tests with notes. And yes, that is a true statement, something that I've been doing for a while now. And I have definitely some tips that I want to kind of, bring out to you if your teacher allows this or not. But I think it's something that's really important about the learning process as well as preparing for an exams. And you can take advantage of what these tips that I'm going to be covering with you guys, why I allow my students to take their tests with their notes. And hopefully that can you can take advantage and use those to obviously do better for your own upcoming tests, because I know that many of you have upcoming exams, and I think creating your notes, so therefore it would be something that if your teacher was like, hey, I'm going to be in a good mood and let you use your notes, then you would be prepared and you would have everything that you need to be as successful as you can. So, well, hey, good Christian boy, Avocado, David, Grace, Genovi, that one potato, Icy Shaker, and Randy, Kanadi, good to see you guys. I greatly appreciate you showing up tonight, and hopefully if you guys submitted some questions, what I will be doing is, again, going through, I think I have almost like 25 questions tonight to get through, and I do have a couple slots though that are open. So therefore I will be taking some questions in live from the chat. So I like to have questions that are pre-submitted. So if this is something that you are interested in, as far as on the, if that is something you are interested as far as having questions submitted or taking pictures, then you can definitely go ahead and use the Google form down below and to go ahead and submit into that, or submit your questions in there. And I am taking some questions though. As I work through these, I will kind of take some breaks. And then if you have any questions, if you catch me at the right moment, and it's something that's rather simple, then I will go ahead and add them in there. I also do have a Discord server that you guys can go ahead and present your questions with in there, that you guys can help each other out, answer questions, and just kind of submit your questions for whatever else you guys need in that regard. So just wanted to kind of let you guys know from there. So let's go ahead and take a look at why I let my students take tests with notes. And if you're on my email list, I sent out an email about a story about when I was in college and I was in a statistics course, and I remember the teacher, said, oh, we're going to let you guys use your open notes test. Like, everything's open notes. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I love college. Like, this is so much easier. I don't have to study, as much. And like, this is just going to be some kind of like basic test. I'm going to, pass with flying colors. And boy, was I wrong. Like, I mean, obviously I spent a lot of time creating this amazing, so you weren't allowed to use your open notes, but basically what you're able to do is put your notes on a sheet of paper, and you could put whatever you wanted to on that sheet of paper. So I went through all of my notes. I went through everything that we ever did, and I copied down all the important processes, the formulas, the definitions, everything, example problems, and I put them all down on that sheet of paper. And one thing that I found out, which was going through this, was when it came time for the test, I was all happy thinking I had like everything on that, piece of paper. And I was amazed, like I did actually pretty well on the test, or at least in the course. And I don't remember exactly how I did on that particular test, but almost all the tests, like I did fairly well. But the cool thing was I put in all this time and effort into making these, amazing, kind of notes that I could use on my test. And the coolest thing was I ended up almost never using all of those notes, because I basically just kind of, by creating that little note sheet, I was studying for my test. I was reviewing the material again. I was going through it. And by the time I had to go and take the test, like I basically had everything ready and like understood. Now, of course, there was always a couple points, that I'm like, I'm not really sure. Let me just kind of verify that. And what it did though, is it gave me this little confidence. This gave me the confidence that when I walked into my test, then, I had everything that I needed, right? That I knew all the basics. And then it was me going to be just having to be able to apply what it is I know, as well as what information I have. And I think that's something really important as far as the understanding of like, the type of test that we're creating, for our students, as far as, are we just wanting them to recall some content, some information, or do we want to see what it is they really know? Do we want them to apply the information? And of course we want them to, understand the material, but we just don't want them to recall, certain formulas or facts or very basic questions. We want them, some higher order questions and them to be able to apply, and make some connections through that. And I don't want to fail a student if they can't remember a certain formula, or if they, make a mistake remembering, a certain definition or something. Like, I want to make sure they understand, how to use them and how to apply them and how to connect them with other pieces of content that we've learned throughout the chapter. So a couple years ago, I kind of made the decision. I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot because I thought it was very beneficial for me as a student. And so I was like, let me go and try this in the classroom. And that's what I did. I said, all right, guys, you're going to give your I'm going to give you your notes. You can put whatever you want to on a sheet of paper. And I was kind of like freaking out. I'm like, I'm making my class too easy. I did have to change some of my questions, where I would have some questions, which were like the recall questions, just some like basic ones, which I always kind of did to like counteract some of like, just kind of give you those like, the fluff questions basically. So I'd kind of add all those in. And so I still keep a couple of those obviously in just to kind of always like give me questions. But I did kind of change my test, to make sure that students were, I was always asking questions that wouldn't always be directly applied to the notes, or simply like I do, you do, kind of ideas. Like they would have to kind of think about how to do the problems. But really, to my amazement, the test results weren't like overwhelming. Everybody passed the test and everybody did well, right? There's still students that fail. Even now today, students still fail my tests and my quizzes. One of the things that I found though was, definitely students that created the cheat sheets, students that created good cheat sheets, not just like not just some notes, but actually students that put in the time and the effort. Those are the students that you could see really, really did well. And obviously there's people that still never create a cheat sheet, they never create those notes to use on their test. And it kind of like blows my mind. Like, why would you not take advantage of something like that? But yeah, I think the effort of students they put into preparing for their notes, getting ready for your test is a great way to study for your test. So, the reason why I wanted to bring up this kind of attention or this content for you guys this week is I know a lot of you guys are taking your, exams. And one of the things that we're working on, we're finishing up my chapter in pre-calculus. And one of the things we're going to work on this week is creating our cheat sheet, creating those notes. And because basically I want my students to kind of go through everything they've learned in semester one and write down everything they need, write down example problems, write down those formulas, write down the processes that we've covered, everything that they want, and put that onto that one sheet of paper. And what that's going to do is that's going to help them go back through all of the information that we've learned. And the main thing is too, like when you have an exam or you have a test, like, it's timed, right? You don't have time to go back and search through all the, all your kind of stuff and try to figure things out. Like it's the idea of creating the cheat sheet and going back through your notes and writing all that stuff down. That is where the benefit is at. The benefit is not really in the cheat sheet. It's really not that useful for you on a test. Even if you did have a test that was all recall questions, or everything that was based off of your notes, you just don't have enough time to go ahead and research or go ahead and find things that are going to be within your notes. Like, I tell students all the time, like your cheat sheet, you can use it, but you don't, you got to remember, it's not going to save you. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing. And, no matter what you put on that cheat sheet, it's not going to overcome your misunderstandings, so it is, I still have people that have great big cheat sheets and they still fail. It's like, if you don't understand what you're doing, there doesn't matter what you put on that cheat sheet. It's not going to be able to solve the answers for you, but I think if you put in your time, I think, if you were doing what I was asking for my students, they've created a cheat sheet we've covered 4 chapters so far. So they've created a cheat sheet for every 4 chapters. Now we're doing a semester exam so they can go back through all 4 of those cheat sheets and now start pulling in the most important pieces of information from each one of those cheat sheets. And I can almost just guarantee it. If a student has created 4 cheat sheets, quality cheat sheets, and then they create one more for their semester exam, I mean, they can do some extra practice study problems or anything else, but I guarantee you they're going to do pretty well on that semester exam. So I hope you guys can take away a little bit from what I have done in my class and in my experience as a student as well as a teacher. And I'm not expecting or saying that is the correct way to assess our students or it's best, but I think it's always been beneficial when, from what I've seen, students are very stressed. And I remember being that stressed out, student. And I think it's very nice. I think that's one thing whenever I give my students, the end of the year surveys, stuff. I'm like, what are things that I should change? What are things I should keep? And one of the things that students always talk about is keeping the, cheat sheets. One, how beneficial it was when they actually did it. They saw the results. And then 2 is, just like that removal of stress, just of like, oh, I don't need to memorize, or like, feel like, because I've had like the little cheat sheets, right? People take like a little sheet of paper and try to, I catch students, every year cheating like this. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. If they're, put the things that you need to know on that sheet of paper and you can use that on the test. It's not going to save you, but we want to make sure you understand what you're doing, not that you can just recall information. So, but hopefully if you still have an exam coming up, then, I encourage you to go through and create your little cheat sheet. If you're allowed to use it or not, create it. And that's something I used to do in my calculus classes before I was even allowed to use them because we weren't allowed to use them on our test, but I would create them as well. That was one thing my calculus professor, I remember he always told me a kind of different variation, but kind of the same thing, to go ahead and create those as like a little review, as a summary tool of the content that we were learning. And I used to spend a lot of time creating them. So I would definitely recommend that you go and look into it for you guys. That would be definitely something helpful. And if it does work out for you, then you can always go ahead and let me know from there, because I always appreciate hearing you guys' stories and how you guys do well on your upcoming assessments. So that is it for the notes, but I hear you here, Roberto, Avocado, Olivia, got from there. Michael, thank you so much. Disty, IPS for pre-calcs, Alex. Francis, did you give study guides or do your students have their own notes only? I do give study guides. So I don't really, so the thing is, so the title, should students take tests with notes? So I don't allow them to use all of their notes. What I allow them to use is what I call a cheat sheet. So they're allowed to take a sheet of paper and they're allowed to write whatever they want to on that sheet of paper. So I don't do the notes, open notes, just because that is definitely actually more of a distraction than anything else. Because on a time test, like my students have 35 questions in 90 minutes, right? You don't have time to look anything up. You really don't. I'll give you everything you want to. Oh, well, thank you very much, my wife. Thank you much. Love you. So if I give students their notes and everything like that, like if they want to go ahead and search something in, just the fact of like trying to find something, is wasting time, So I do allow them one sheet of paper to write down whatever they want to on that sheet of paper. And so that's what I talk about with their notes, being able to use it on their test. I do give them study guides. I do give them a free response study guide. I give them a multiple choice study guide. And then we actually I have an online kind of portal right now. And actually, that's where I just came from. I just did 85 questions with students inside the pre-calculus final. So if you still have a pre-calculus final and you're interested, I just completed 85 semester 1 examples. I did that in the live stream before this live stream, so my brain is a little bit fried. We'll see how the questions go for today. But all the information to that pre-calculus bundle course is in the description below if that's something you guys are interested in as well. All right. So thank you, Denise. The cheat sheet is the best way to enable their students to get a good grade on their test. Yeah, well, enabling, I'm not, it would be amazing. You would think that everybody would just pass the class or everybody would get a good grade. And it's simply not true. It's, I even, I've tried to like encourage students like, hey, please, do these cheat sheets. And some students won't do them. And some people will create cheat sheets and they still will fail, So, I mean, I've had students put in a lot of time onto there, like a lot of time. And I felt really, really bad because you can tell they were really studying and stuff. But if they didn't have the fundamentals down, like they still failed. I mean, the cheat sheet did not save them. It did not give them, just because you created a cheat sheet, did not give them a good grade. Probably made them pass a couple, do a couple problems that they may have not been able to do without the cheat sheet. But it's not going to overwhelm, because again, just a reminder, you don't have enough time to really use that cheat sheet. I mean, yeah, I really like it just as a confidence. And I think the number one thing that students would say from that cheat sheet is that I just liked having it there, and like they say, I maybe used it like 1 or 3 times. On 35 questions, you used it 1 or 3 times. And basically it's like just to make sure you're doing it right. So you're like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, but let me just make sure. Let me just like take a look at it. But yeah, if you're doing 35 questions in 9 minutes, like you don't have time to be searching how to do a problem, or, like you need to know what you're doing. And it's just nice to have that tool there. And I think when students are, taking tests, students say like, I'm a bad test taker, I get all stressed out and, all those kind of things, like having that cheat sheet there, it helps to eliminate a lot of that stress and a lot of that anxiety that you have of like, I need to remember all of this stuff. And yeah, you do need to remember all, on a final, like that's a lot of content to remember. But I want you to be remembering the right stuff and not to be focusing on the little things. The little things I want to be down on that cheat sheet. And so therefore you can apply them. But I want to see what it is, what you're doing. And that's what the cheat sheet, is not going to replace. That's going to come from your brain, and you can't cheat on that, right? You can write down all those little rules and all that kind of stuff. Like that's fine. But you're not going to be able to fake it, past, fake your understanding from there just by that stuff. Oh man, I'm getting a lot of questions from on here. So, I'll get to your guys' questions. I do have quite a bit of them, but let me get to there. Yeah, as far as math questions, I'm not going to get to all of those, but I will have some open things. So if you guys do have some math questions, then feel free to add them. I think I do have like 5 openings where I just kind of have an open space. I'm not answering a question that's been pre-submitted. So you guys can submit your questions in from there. I get another super chat. I did. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And if you have a question, let me know, because, I always appreciate your super chat. So if you have any questions you want to add to that, I'll be more than happy to take it in. But thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. And especially since my brain and my wife, I think, would probably appreciate that as well, too, because I did a live stream at 7:30 and my brain was just kind of going crazy. I did 85 questions. I was like just smoking through them. So then our girls had to go to bed during that time, too. So it kind of got a little crazy from there. All right. Pythagorean triples, please no more. All right. I wanted to get through a couple of the questions. At least this one's on the cheat sheet. Netlock, you can definitely ask trick questions, but I'm not going to be able to answer them until I get to going to my math questions. Do you explain why he lets the students? Yes, I did. So I'll go through all that. Again, this is all on replay, guys. Also, all these questions that I am going to be answering, I will have them timestamped after that. If you want to go back to any of my other live streams, I do have all of those timestamped as well. So if there is anything you guys want to go ahead and, look for or anything like that, you can definitely go ahead and look for the timestamps. Alberto, that's exactly what I just covered. Do you give take-home exams? Thankfully, I did have some like homeroom, like virtual classrooms at the beginning of the year, but now all my classes are in person. So I have not been doing any take-home exams. Last year I did do take-home exams, or at least take-home tests. And therefore I just use an online testing platform for that. Actually explain how things work and not just show steps. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Casey, that's exactly it. It's just studying and practicing. Why is it more effective studying class than at home? I think it's just the setting, just like mentally, like I'm in this, when I'm in this kind of studio, which is, my bedroom, a lot of times I'll do work in here great. And then sometimes in the morning I'll work in my office, and sometimes I just have to mentally always be changing my settings. And I think just when you guys walk into classroom, yeah, you see your friends and all that kind of stuff, but too, when you put yourself and your brain into a different environment, especially like school, your brain understands hey, this is my learning kind of zone. And, you're just able, I think a lot of times able to focus a little bit better. And so, yeah, I would always recommend when you're studying to, change your environment. Don't, if you start getting distracted easily in a certain environment, change it up, go somewhere else, go outside. I mean, I was going to say go to the coffee shop, but that's kind of a little off, unavailable at the moment. So, but, yeah, just try, change rooms. I mean, I think I have three or four different stations inside of our house that I use, just to kind of to focus in different areas. Just so it's not always the same. It's easy to graph as time. Yes, I don't like graphing. Should be the formulas. Yeah, I think definitely the formulas. I don't think there's any reason why you need to be memorizing any formulas from that. And I have a question. What's your recommendation for a student? I don't know. Well, Rachel. Hey, ¿qué pasa? I'm glad you're seeing okay. And I passed my intermediate algebra class with a B. Well, awesome. Well, ¿qué paso? Congratulations. And thank you so much for a super chat. I really do appreciate that. And I'm happy to say that you passed that class though. Great for you. Good job. And did you ever students ever done better online or in person? I'm really struggling with that AP. Yeah. I mean, I think doing math in the morning is, I think I can't remember, as far as on the research, but I think unfortunately for me, I'm still teaching. That's why I do these live streams at night, but I think when one of the things I hear, when I look at my YouTube analytics, a lot of times students are watching my videos at 10 or 11 o'clock. And obviously people watch from all over the world, but, when you think about population and probably, Eastern and Central time in the United States is probably more populous from there. And, oh, thank you, Addie. I do appreciate that. And you've been such a great help for on there. So thank you so much for that super chat. I really do appreciate it. I hope you are doing well with your health and everything. So I always wish you the very, very best. Thank you. And I think that, what was I going to say from there? Now I get other things. If I'm doing, I just think, I see a lot of people doing stuff. And I think if you can just set some times, I think the closer you do it towards school or that you learn something, the better you're going to do, because I think I would be like many of you. If I was in high school and had YouTube, I wouldn't do my homework until late at night and I'd completely forgot what I learned, even though I probably understood it or semi understood it in class. But then I get to doing my homework at late at night. I wouldn't know how to do it. And then I just spend my time searching on YouTube. So I totally get it. I'd probably be more like many of you, if we're on there getting help. So I definitely recommend working out in the mornings or as soon or close to after school or after you had instruction as possible. That was one thing actually when I was in college, it was very helpful. I used to go to the tutor lab a lot. And, a lot of times I'd just do it just to do my, work. But it was nice because the tutor lab was obviously on campus. So I'd go to a math class. And even though once I even started taking math classes outside of what the tutor lab could offer, I would still just go in there because it was on campus and I could go ahead and complete my work, rather than, because once I went home, I knew I wasn't getting my work. I knew I wasn't going to be getting my work done with my roommates. I tend to make really dumb mistakes. Yeah, you just got to go slow and check your work. I'm exactly like you. If you guys watch my videos, you'll see a lot of stupid and dumb mistakes. My brain sometimes goes 3 or 4 steps ahead from what I'm talking. And so, it's just one of those things you just got to know yourself, slow down, and take it from there. All right, a lot of math questions, guys. I will be able to get to your math questions. I do have a couple open spots in there. But I will have a lot of open spots, so I will get to some math questions from there. But I'm just trying to add a couple more of you guys. I do appreciate. I was going to get to some math questions, but you guys are just keep on adding me into. I'm going to see, how do we study? Well, I have a lot of things for you to study, but I definitely recommend doing the cheat sheet for the notes, which I talked about at the beginning of the stream. If you missed the beginning of the stream, I would highly recommend going back and kind of see, how to create those. Basically, you're just taking all of your notes that you've learned, from your semester for a semester exam cheat sheet, putting the formulas, the processes, the definitions, and example problems, examples from your notes in class and everything like that, and put that on one sheet of paper. And therefore, if your teacher was like, hey, you're allowed to use this on your test, like what would you want on that sheet of paper? And I talked about how I allow my students to actually use that sheet of paper on their test. And because that's one of my ways I want to encourage them to create this amazing cheat sheet. And the students that do it and do really well typically do better on their test, but it's not because they have it. It's the fact of the idea that they created it, and that process of creating it is studying for your test. So, and obviously the other thing that's the most obvious thing is just to practice, practice example problems and example problems and example problems. And that's one thing is in my, pre-calculus bundle that I have, I think I have over like 400 example problems that you can just practice pre-calculus questions. Like if you're taking pre-calculus and you just need to practice questions, like obviously the back of the book, and you have all these other, worksheets and everything online too. But these are problems that I work through. I have answers and explanations, but I think just the more that you can go through, practicing problems is also another way for you guys to build up questions or build up tips. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a cheat sheet is a make or break it for anybody, by any means. So I would definitely not say that, my students pass my test or pass my class because of my cheat sheets, because I have students that fail and they create cheat sheets, and I have students that fail and don't create cheat sheets, and D's and C's and everything like that. So, no, Joey, that was exactly me. I revisited mathematics in college and I didn't do very well in high school. I graduated with C's and stuff like that. So I was not the greatest math student when I was in high school, but I wanted to put in the best effort. I wanted to learn math, and, I made it kind of a mission for me when I went into college to do that. So that's exactly what I did. And yeah, I think I would definitely say you're just very, very much like me. And yeah, I don't have a book or material to recommend, but I think just finding, I think there's a lot of great teachers on YouTube. And I wouldn't say that YouTube is the only place. There's obviously a lot of other resources, but I think just finding that, that person that is teaching that you kind of connect with. And I think that's, one thing I've kind of mentioned is I think one of the revolutions, I wouldn't really say revolutions, but one of the things that's going to be changing, I think with, that's coming out of education and COVID, which I think I've already talked about, but I'll be talking about this again, which I got to get to my math, is just that, the fact of students want to learn and they connect with other teachers. They connect with certain teachers that have certain personalities or explain things the way they want to. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of, is people having that access to additional teachers to learn from. I don't think we need to be restricted within our brick and mortars, as we may say. And I think that, schools are never going to go away from that brick and mortar idea. But what's going to happen is I think there's going to be a lot more accessibility for students to be able to get help from, outside of their schools, and from people that they, feel like they have a better understanding or are teaching better to meet their needs, All right. Wow. All right. A lot more questions I have. Let's freshen. So again, guys, I will be getting to the questions. Just kind of give you a heads up if you have just kind of joined in. These are all questions that have been pre-submitted, but within each of these questions pre-submitted, I do have a couple opening spots that when I get to them, then if you do have a math question as I'm kind of going through these problems, then feel free to kind of add them in there. And then, as long as it's simple, I know I'm not going to be covering a lot of, word problems or anything crazy. But then I'll try to do my best to help you out from there. But all these other questions that I have prepared for this live stream have all been pre-submitted. So I'll go ahead and get started on there in rather shortly. I just want to make sure I got any other questions that I do have from people that were of just any other questions regarding taking the test with your notes or your live streams. And just kind of seeing from there, oh my God, you got with your junior is over here. Well, it's happy to help you out. People watch more than sports. Yeah, I definitely agree. Why did it say I was a scribe? I don't know. I'm not sure why you got scribe there. Emily says, any recommendations for first-year geometry teachers in this pandemic remote teaching? I mean, I'm teaching geometry for the first time in over 10 years, actually, this year, and it's been really, really difficult because I think, geometry is one of those courses that I think it's, since it is a very visual course, it's very difficult. I think it's, I think it's very difficult to go through the, this remote, kind of leaching in there. I think whatever else is, you just gotta, I don't have any recommendations for you as far as I'm there. I know there's just a ton of resources and I'm not a great person to submit as far as like all the recommendations and resources for you. But, I think just always, keeping things in perspective and just giving students the, kind of the encouragement to be, learning the math. And obviously, I think the great thing about geometry is at least you can investigate so much with the students. And I think allowing them to do a lot of those investigations on their own and to see a lot of the, the properties on their own, I think is going to be very, very, helpful for them when they're learning geometry. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, it really, really is, tough. And I can only imagine being a, first year teacher and then even trying to do this pandemic and then having to go remote. I mean, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. But kudos to you and keep on putting in the work and doing what you can to, help out the students. That's what, they are looking up to you for. And that's one of the reasons why, I wanted to make sure, for my students that, I didn't have all the answers and I still don't have all the answers, even, talking to everybody out here now, like I'm trying to do the best that I can do, just like all your other teachers. And, I think just the main thing is we just got to put things in perspective. We're all in different situations. All of our, teachers and students and districts, we all have our own restrictions and, just doing the best you can do and, putting things, in perspective, but trying to make the most out of it. I think is going to be the kind of the theme for the year, and hopefully, I said that from last year to get through it and, hopefully this year will be different, but this year has just been obviously even more crazy than the end of last year. So, we'll just get through it and we'll just hope that we can get better on the other side. Yeah. When I do it, I just get an F. Yeah, I totally, where I get 80 questions. What did you mention? You answered 80 questions. Yeah, Olivia. So I have a pre-calculus bundle that okay, Pasa, thank you so much. I saw another super chat from me, but I somehow missed it. So thank you so much again for super chat. And I missed a couple of questions. Well, no worries. You don't have to be here every Sunday night, but I do appreciate you showing up. I do appreciate your kind words and also for the super chat. Thank you so much. But yeah, I do also offer a pre-calculus bundle for pre-calculus students. For pre-calculus students, that people that are interested want a little bit more of like prep for pre-calculus. I didn't create that for my other classes. I just don't. I'm like limited with the number of time. But for pre-calculus, I do have a pre-calculus review with multiple questions, and then I have this online quiz. So students that so that more information is in the details below. This is for my final exam and semester exam, and so it's something I've been offering to students that if they wanted to, take that pre-calculus kind of like exam with me, they could go ahead and do that. And it was kind of like a study little course. I call it like a little bundle. And then I did the online Q&A training, kind of like what I'm doing with you guys. And so therefore students could ask questions. So I spent about 15, 20 minutes answering questions that students had prepped for their exam. And then I have a little like an online kind of an online like mock exam that I kind of went through with them, and it was 85 questions. So I just knocked that out as fast as I could. And that gave me like 10 minutes before this live stream. So my brain is a little mushy. So that's why I'm kind of like not like super excited or interested in getting right into the math right now. I'm just kind of enjoying hanging out, talking with you guys, because I know once I get into it, the math, my brain is going to hurt for sure. Yeah, I get 10 dislikes. Thank you. Joji, I will get into some math questions. I am actually going to start the math here very, very soon. And so if you do have some questions on there, once I get to there, I'll say, hey guys, I have an open. I'll say, hey, Seaman and Joe G and Pretty Savage, and I'll kind of get through, and my yes is best. And I'll say hi to you guys, and if you have any questions from there, you guys can definitely go and submit them. Well, thank you very much, Logan. I very much appreciate that. Please help on question 35. And I'm not sure what you are talking about, but if I see question number 35, I will try to do my best. Oh, and this question number 35, maybe, hopefully. Brother called me back. Oh, well, it's good to see. The chat is going by way too fast. Carl, I'll save that for my teachers. I'll show them tomorrow. All right, Karen. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You appreciate that. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the live stream. And so I have some questions. Again, these are all pre-submitted. If you guys are interested in submitting questions for my next live stream, which will be next Sunday at 9 p.m., you can go ahead and submit them in the Google form, which is in the description of this live stream. If I'm not able to get to your question that you submit, because I'm not able to get to all of them, I had about 40 questions that was submitted to me. I don't have time to do 40 of them. So if I'm unable to get to your question, then I also have a Discord server that you can go ahead and post your questions into, and therefore you can answer questions, post questions. But again, please remember, guys, this is a kind of give and take relationship. So obviously, if you're going to be posting questions in Discord, look to try to answer some questions from some other students as well, right? And also try to think in time as well. If you're posting multiple problems, that's usually people aren't going to have time to really help you out. But if you're being very specific with where you're having trouble, there's a lot of people in that server that are usually willing to be able to help you out. But, I've seen people, post like a whole test or like 8 questions on Discord, and they're like, nobody's helping me out. I'm like, well, of course, nobody's going to solve like 10 problems, in like 10 problems on like this test. Like, not many people have that, available time to be able to do it. But if you're very specific with what exactly you need help with, that's going to be a little bit different story. So, well, thank you, Chris K. And where's the Discord? It is in the description, or at least it should be. Let me just make sure that I have so the Discord, as well as have questions. I have my Google form, and as well as the Discord server. So therefore you could also subscribe to my channel, and you can become a member. And then I have organized playlists. I have my website. I have a checklist, and I have my Instagram accounts, or all my other accounts. And you guys can check all of the good stuff in the descriptions down below. All right, so do you agree with pop quizzes? Good question, Scott, or Andrew Scott. I see that. And I think it really kind of depends on how you set up your classes. I've never really done pop-up quizzes. I think they're good. I just don't think they're a good way to assign a grade. It's kind of like for instance, my quizzes, I give my students their quizzes, but it's a learning part of the grade. So the students have opportunities to have their quizzes dropped, right? In my class, because I don't feel like people should be penalized as long as they learn from their mistakes and they learn how to do the stuff on the test, or in the, they finally know what they're doing. Then I don't think they should be punished for not understanding how to do something at a snapshot in time. That just doesn't make sense to me. If our goal is for students to learn something, and then and they learned it, we're going to penalize them because they didn't know it on Tuesday of last week. That just doesn't make any sense. So I do agree. I have no problem with giving you pop quizzes. I give quizzes as well. And I, fail students on their quizzes, but they all have that opportunity to have those quizzes dropped as long as they show me that they improved and understand this stuff. So that actually brings me to another good live stream topic to talk about. So we'll be talking about that as well, upcoming. Olivia, does anybody have a resource? Yeah, sorry, Olivia. I do not have a free pre-calculus final exam. But Olivia, if you do look on my channel, I do have one of my, I think on one of the I think I do have a final. I just, like, you can see like an old video of me going through it. I don't have the workbook available, but I do have the old live stream that I do, and that is still available online. So it doesn't have the problems that I went through, but if you want to just kind of see, like, work through the problems with me, I mean, it's like a long live stream that you can definitely take some content with you. But yeah, if you wanted like to print it out and just get the answers, that is a part of the bundle, which is obviously has a cost, because there's a lot more that just comes in with that. It's not just one of those. I have everything together for the semester as well as for the final exam. All right, let's go ahead and get on to some math because it has been way too late and I gotta move. Wow, okay, crap. All right, so solve the equations. So the main thing, guys, when we're looking to solve an equation, we want to identify the LCD. So the LCD is what denominator is going to divide into for all of these. So this one's going to be x. So here we can factor this to x times x plus 1. So you can see that all these denominators have in common is an x plus 1. And then this one can be factored, so it's an x and x plus 1. So my LCD is x times x plus 1. And then you're just going to multiply it times every single term. So as long as you're multiplying everything in your equation by the same value, that's going to produce an equivalent equation. It's not going to change the value of the equation. Now, what's important about multiplying by your LCD is notice what happens. X divides into x times x plus 1, right? The x's will divide out. So that's going to leave me with a 2 times x plus 1. Here, my x plus 1s will divide out, leave me with a 1 times x. And then equals over here, my x and my x plus 1s both divide out. And that's just going to leave me with a 5. So now I have an equation that has no more denominators. So that's important to multiplying by your LCD is you're multiplying by something that your denominators are going to evenly divide into. And now you just have to do a little distributive property. Subtract the 2, you get a 3x equals 3. Divide by 3, and x is going to equal 1. Over here, you could do the same idea. You could also apply the cross product, which I don't like to do because students usually apply it incorrectly when they don't need to. But again, here, if you're looking for the LCD, now here they don't have anything in common. They don't have any factors in common, right? A is a variable that they have in common, but it's not a factor of a plus 2 and a minus 1. So if they don't have any factors in common, the LCD is simply just going to be the product of them too. So my LCD in this case is going to be a plus 2 and an a minus 1. See here, the factors that they had in common were an x and an x plus 2, right? Because those are other factors over there. So now when I multiply here, you can see this is why the cross product kind of works out, because you get the denominator multiplied by the other denominator. Okay, and therefore we go from here. So this is 21a minus 21 equals a 3a plus 6. Now here we have our variables on both sides. Well, to solve for your variables, you need to get them to the same side. Okay, and therefore I'll just use my inverse operation. So I get an 18a equals 27 divided by 18. A equals a 27 over 18, and then you're going to want to find a value that divides into the top and the bottom. Looks like that would be a 3, so that would be a 9 over 6. That's not going to work. What about a 9? That would be easier, wouldn't it? A 9 divides in 27 3 times, and 9 divides in 18 2. So there you go. All right, factor and simplify the difference. So I'm not really sure why I want to factor these, but if I was going to find the difference, if I had 4x minus 1 times 1 minus a 1/3, well, thank you, Relax Turtle Productions. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate you caught my attention with your super chat, and I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. So I have 4x minus 1 raised to the 1/5, and then a 1/3 times 4x. 4x minus 1 equals to the 6/5. Okay, so now again, you might be saying, what do I do here? Well, again, let's go back old school. What if I had x to the 5th minus, I don't know, x to the 6th? Let's do that, okay? Or actually, I've got a better idea. If I had x to the 1st minus x to the 5th, that'd be x to the, that'd be an x to the -5th, right? Which is 1 over x to the 5th. Okay, so again, as long as my exponents have the same base, then you just go ahead and subtract the powers. So The reason why this is important is because I don't have x's as my bases, but I do have the exact same bases, right? This is going to be a 4x minus 1 and 4x minus 1. So this has a leading coefficient of 1. So therefore, it's going to be a 1 minus 1/3. That's going to be my leading coefficient. My base remains the same, which is a 4x minus 1. And then 1/5. So now I'm just going to subtract a 1/5 minus a 6/5. Okay, so 1 minus 1/3 is going to give me 2/3. My base remains the same, 4x minus 1. And then 1/5 minus 6/5 is going to be a negative 5/5, which is equal to a negative 1. So that's going to put that in the denominator. So therefore, this is a 2 times 3, 4x minus 1 raised to the first, or you could just leave it from there. Just talk about imaginary numbers in general. Here's one of the questions. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to get to with you guys on this. Hey, look, I do teach geometry, but just saw your question on there. So yeah, I do teach geometry, but I don't have many, I'm trying to update my library on my geometry videos. So I'm just kind of working on that slowly. But talk about imaginary numbers. Well, I can talk about the imaginary unit, you know, I'll at least kind of get you into an idea of, you know, imaginary units, while they're important. So if I need to solve this equation, right, we'd have not this equation, that equation, x squared plus 1 equals 0. Well, you can subtract the 1 on both sides, right? And you get a x squared equals negative 1. And then when you introduce a square root, make sure when you introduce a square root, you have to use plus or minus. So x equals plus or minus. We don't have a square root of negative 1 in our real number system, so that's going to be plus or minus I. Now, the reason why I think this is important is, let's just say x equals I is what we call our imaginary unit. Sorry. Okay. So what we call the imaginary unit here is we can say I is equal to the square root of negative 1. Okay, so that is just a very basic understanding of our imaginary unit. I'm not going to get very detailed or like understanding of stuff. The only other thing that I think is really important a lot of times when we're dealing with our imaginary numbers, Nathaniel, no, I was not on the Chris Hansen show because obviously I'd be in police because that person was in trouble, right? So obviously that was not me. So if you go and watch the episode, you can go ahead and take a look at that, and I am not the same person. So I have I equals the square root of negative 1. And then if you want to go ahead and simplify that, you would square both sides, right? So therefore you get I squared is equal to negative 1. Okay, so I is equal to the square root of negative 1, which is what we call our imaginary unit. And then I squared equals negative 1. And then obviously you can keep on going up from there and it repeats after 4. But to just keep things simple, I would stick with that. All right. Is there a specific problem? Oh, okay. All right. So I don't know. This is so weird. I guess obviously this is like a question that's been asked like over and over and over. This is a question that's been asked like over and over and over. It's just kind of weird because I answered this question like, I think it was like 3 times on the last stream last week. So either way, I'll just kind of set this problem up though. I'm not going to solve it. But if you are interested, David, in getting more examples from theirs, I looked at it. It wasn't the same person. So I'm just like kind of just laughing because it's like exact same question that keeps on showing up. So I did answer 3 more of these questions last live stream. So anyways, identical squares are cut by an 8 by an 11.5 inch. So 8 by 11.5 inches. So we have these nice little squares that are being cut, right? Okay. And so the sides are folded up to make a box. If the volume, so the box is going to look something like this. It's not the best box, but you can see here's the base, and it's kind of like a an open box, right? So it's not able to make a box with no top, right? If the volume is 63.75, how long is the edge? So I'm not going to answer this question, but I'll kind of do to set it up. So we don't know how big this is, right? But we can say that's x and that's x. That means that's x and that's x. So the width is really going to be 11.5 minus 2x. And this width is really going to be an 8 minus 2x. And then, let's see, 11.5 minus 2x. Here would be 8 minus 2x. And then obviously the height is going to be x, right? So if they give us what the volume is, then we can write an equation, right? We can say the 63.75 is equal to 8 minus 2x times 11.5 minus 2x, and then times x. Now, again, they want us to solve for x, right? So what you're going to want to do then is set this equal to 0, and you're going to want to expand this all out. So I'm not going to rewrite that because that's kind of a lot. Put it back in there. Okay. And then minus a 63.7. No, we're out of space. Oh, come on. And then you go ahead and subtract a 63.75. Okay. And then what I would do is I would go ahead and use your calculator from there to go ahead and solve from there. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Salamander, do you call students call you Brian? No, they call me Mr. McLogan. Craps, I'm 51 minutes late. That's okay, Garlic Soup. We had a good talk. Actually, just getting into. I'm only on question number 51. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be up here way too late. Should I play rugby? Yes, you should play rugby. Rugby is the amazing sport and the best sport that I ever played. And I played football, wrestling, and baseball growing up. And rugby is by far the best that I would definitely agree upon. All right. So anyways, should I sell real estate? Now that's a little bit different, Karen. I wouldn't say that's opening to everybody, but yeah, I mean, I think selling real estate is a great profession. I think it's an amazing way to meet people and also learn about the real estate process. If you end up buying a house on your own and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't get your license just so you can buy a house, but yeah, I think, being a real estate agent or just working in real estate is a wonderful profession. I teach algebra 2, geometry, and pre-calculus this year. I wrestle at UPenn. Well, awesome. Good for you. Yes. Yes, I love wrestling. Wrestling holds a very big open in my heart, for sure. I definitely, I think kudos to you for keeping up on the wrestling. I love wrestling and everything that it's helped me be able to be from there. So definitely wrestling is an amazing sport. I think the thing that I liked about rugby in different to wrestling, which anyways, wrestling was the reason why I was any good at any other sport. Wrestling is like the foundation of like your athleticness. Athletic ability, right? It just helped you with everything. Kind of like how math, right? Math like helps you a lot with physics and a lot of science, it kind of gives you like that foundational stuff. But yeah, I think the rugby was just the camaraderie and the respect of the sport, that you don't see with a lot of the other team sports from out there. I had people that I played with for all over the world. And it's like once you share a rugby game or, with somebody, like it's like lifelong friends. And that's so unique and so different from any other sport that I've ever played. There's just something special about the rugby that I can't compare it to anything else. It's really amazing. I'm excited for God. I'm just more excited to have a break because teaching has been very, very difficult this year, as many of you are aware of. How did I get into teaching? I wanted to become a teacher when I was in high school. I wanted to become a math teacher. I liked math. I wasn't very good at it. And I wanted to kind of change the way math was being taught. And I'm not really there yet, but that's kind of part of my mission. Yes, sir, I am excited to get for Christmas. I'm excited just for have, a couple of weeks off and to reset with my brain for sure. Yes, Danielle, I will be getting to your question. I did write down there, so I will get to you on that. And all right, Jesse says, can you talk about reference angles for negative angles and trig functions? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'll do that for the open question because I do got to move on. But yeah, just remember a reference angle. Like if you have a reference angle, like here's your angle. Let's say, I don't know. Let's do 5 pi. No, not 5 pi. Let's do 3 pi over 4. Okay. So the reference angle is just going to be the angle, not any direction, right? It's basically going to be how far is this angle from the terminal side away from the x-axis. So we say theta prime is going to be pi over 4. Okay, so that's what the reference angle is. So it doesn't matter if it's a positive angle, negative angle, if it's larger than pi, less than pi, like it doesn't matter. So if I gave you an angle, right, and let's call this one, negative 2 pi over 3. again, to find the reference angle, we're basically just saying how far is it going to be to the x-axis, right? And hopefully you say, well, that theta prime here is going to be pi over 3. Or if I did another negative angle here, like let's say I did this one, like, okay. So this one, we went all the way around, right? And let's say this angle is 13 pi over 6. Okay. And again, our question though is how far is this away? Well, all the way around the circle is 12 pi. So my reference angle is again always acute and it's always positive. And this reference angle would be pi over 6. There you go. Okay, so I know I had some more questions coming in, guys. Sorry, I got to move on because I do have a lot of questions in tonight, but I will have a couple more open in there. Yeah, I got to make more geometry videos. I do apologize. I'm trying to. It's just very busy. So the next one came in from Arthur, and you're trying to sketch a function by finding the zeros. All right, so you talk about that, and then briefly the same. So the main thing is like, so those are the zeros, right? And what they found is like, so the graph crosses at -2, at 4, and at 6. Those are the only x-intercepts, right? We don't know what the end behavior is, but we know the graph has to be at f of 0 is -2. Well, it can't go like back to positive. Like the rest of the graph has to be below here, right? Like you can't cross, you can't go back up above the x-axis because it says these are the only intercepts. So it says on the interval from -2 to 4, are we dealing with positive or negative values? Well, it's going to be below the x-axis, right? You can't go above, right? Because then there'd be another x-intercept. Would you be willing to go over the unit circle? More specifically, pi over 4 and pi over 6. Yeah. So as far as on the unit circle, like remember the unit circle is just created from triangles, right? So when we are looking at the, I'm trying to even remember. Well, I don't want to get too depth into this, but so I'm trying to think how I want to maybe switch to pi over 4. I think what would be more beneficial for the student would be just talking about like pi in terms of pi. So I'm actually going to change this way what I'm going to explain here. So let's talk about it again. Let's talk about this different way. All right. So here's a circle, right? And so here's your radius. Okay. And then so 1 radian will be 1, 2, 3, right? Something like that. So 1 radian, 2 radians, 3 radians. And then you can see halfway around circle is pi, right? So halfway around circle is pi radians or 180 degrees, right? Which most of us are more familiar with. So when we're talking about radians in terms of pi over 4 or pi over 6, all we're simply doing is taking that, right? So if this is pi, then we can say that that's pi halves, right? Because typically counting radians by numbers is really not going to be that useful and very, very exact. But if you know here's pi and then here's pi halves, well, then we can break that up into 4 equal parts as well, right? So now we could say that's pi over 4, that's pi halves, that's 3 pi over 4, and that'd be pi. And we could do the same thing with pi over 6 or pi thirds, right? So you could break that up there, and then you could break it up into 6 equal parts, right? So then we have pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, and 6 pi over 6, right? So 5, 6, oops, sorry, 1 from on there. So hopefully that kind of helps you out as far as understanding where those are. Now, as far as understanding the values from that, that's going to be, just remember, these are going to be your special right triangles, right? That's what makes up these angles here is your, if that's 45 degrees, it just has the hypotenuse as 1. So that'd be square root of 2 over 2, right? And that's square root of 2 over 2. And that's how we get the x and y coordinates of square root of 2 over 2 comma square root of 2 over 2 for that point right there, right? So that's where those points come from. It's the special right triangles just with a hypotenuse of 1. So not really sure whatever you needed, but hopefully that was beneficial from there. Christian said the graph f of x is given below. Sketch the graph f of x plus 1 minus 4. So for this one, we're basically just taking any points, pick like your major points, and all you're simply going to do is just shift them left 1 and then down 4. So left 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So like if here's A, then this would be like our image, A prime, right? So you're just moving it left 1 and then down 4. And that's just going to be following your transformations. I found the y-intercept, right? X-intercept. I am confused on the part of the question where I have to find another coordinate. And I'm not really sure. Oh, I don't know why I wrote this down, because I'm not really sure what the student is asking. The x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So I guess my only thing, maybe that's what they're talking about, another coordinate, because the x-intercept, it's very important. X-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So you have 0 equals -3 times x plus 2, quantity squared plus 6, right? So when you subtract a 6, you got to make sure you introduce the square root. When you introduce the square root, you got to make sure you include both positive and negative. So you divide by -3. And maybe this is what you're having trouble with. I'm not really sure. So that's squared. So when you square root both sides, you get a plus or minus the square root of 2 equals x plus 2. So you're going to have x equals a -2 plus or minus the square root of 2. So that's how you're going to get those two coordinates. I believe that's what your question was. I wasn't sure. I think at the beginning. So you have your y-intercept. That's when x equals 0, right? Yeah. So the y-intercept, x equals 0. For the x-intercept, y equals 0. Just remember, when you introduce the square root, you got to take plus or minus. All right, time to another open question. So, hey, Terry and Cameron and Barry and Nor and Beichus, how are you guys doing? Good to see you guys in here. And Terry McCann, yeah, I know, I need to keep some more things. So, all right, let's go ahead and see some of your questions. If you guys do have any other questions on the math, let me know. This is kind of an open session where I'll be able to take some questions if you're nice and quick and short and something I can answer relatively quickly. All right, but I did see Barry first on the question, so let me go and see, or Terry. No, not Terry. Yeah, it was Terry. I have more problems with kids using. I have no problems with kids using it. It's just not my cup of tea in my classes. Students need to take notes and study them. Many students do not know how to study. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, like I totally get it. Like, I mean, and I think the one thing that maybe I want to emphasize as well, like, you know, I think it's up to the teacher as far as how you set up the class, right? You know, I think a lot of students, you know, they wonder like, oh, well, like what you're doing, or like my teacher, like this, like it depends on, you know, some students like, you know, do you agree with like pop quizzes or like great, like it depends on how you set up your class, you know, what your expectations are. And I think if, you know, whatever your expectations are for the class, then whatever you decide you want to do, like, is going to make sense. And that's going to be the best for the students, right? It doesn't make sense to adopt somebody else's practices when they have different expectations than your expectations, right? You know, we all teach in different districts. We all have different students. We all have different expectations. So I don't think it's very useful as teachers to adopt, you know, common practices then that if our expectations do not kind of follow what we are, you know, looking for. These, you know, and I was very scared to introduce that, you know, and again, actually to kind of let you know, like when I first introduced this notes, like that wasn't really how my class was set up. It wasn't set up to give students just their notes and kind of stuff like that. And so what happened was that actually I've been constantly involving my class to match, you know, more of my expectations and how my class needs to be set up. And every year it's always changing. It's always evolving. So yeah, you know, I definitely agree. It's something that I think you gotta, you know, it's gotta match, you know, and if it doesn't match, there's no sense in implementing a new system or something that, you know, another teacher does in your school. You know, if it doesn't match how you're presenting your classroom, then it doesn't make sense to just throw it in there, you know. Well, very happy to help you out, Barry. I use so much thank, literally save me on my math. Oh no, I missed it. I want to say that would sound very nice. I do have lessons on inequalities somewhere. You can definitely go and check those out. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I do not know YouTuber math antics. I am aware of the YouTuber math antics, but I'm not aware of them. How's a virtual school been for you as being a teacher? It was horrible, Mitchell. But thankfully we're back in person right now. So I'm in Florida, and that is one thing that we thankfully have not had to go back to the virtual. But if we do, I am not looking forward to it at all, because it was not fun as a teacher. I like the energy and everything you get from being a teacher. So it was very difficult. Well, hello, dude. Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate that. What kind of content do you plan to upload? I'm planning on just kind of upload. I'm working on some new stuff and kind of making some more videos that kind of supplement some of my older videos. Since I teach with a mask on, and we have shorter classes, so I'm not doing my normal teaching. So yeah, even my upload schedule and everything else I'm used to has all been kind of like changed. It's not the same anymore. So I've had to update all that kind of stuff. So whatever I record now is after school and I'm tired and exhausted. So that's I'm trying to just upload stuff that supplements the stuff that I'm learning inside class from you guys. I do have rationalized the denominator. I have a lot of rationalized the denominator. Next question is algebraic. Well, that's awesome, Cameron. Well, thank you very much. Thank you much. You're very welcome, Matthew. Please help me with the quadratic form with the number in front of x. Okay, well, that's just going to be your B. I see you, Kenzie, so I'm going to go with you. Are you still accepting problem submissions? Susan, I am only for these open streams. So I have I think 2 more opens that I will be going on to, depending on how late you want to stay for the stream. But as far as every single week, I always take submissions that are submitted to my Google form, which is in my description. But I'm not going to do any these problems that have been pre-submitted. I'm not going to go back to the forum tonight because typically I like to end my stream at 10 and it's already been way too late. Because I'm supposed to be done with the stream and I'm 10 questions in. Oh God, what am I doing? Okay. So let's go. I don't know. We'll do a quadratic formula, x squared minus 3x plus 1. Okay. So, the quadratic formula, remember when you have a number in front of x, that's just going to be the opposite of b, right? So opposite of b doesn't mean negative, it just means the opposite sign. Plus or minus the square root of -3 squared. Let's throw a 2 in there. And then minus 4 times a, which is 2, times b, which is a -3. And then 4 times a times, not b, times c. There you go. And that's all divided by 2 times a. Okay. So again, now you're just going to be basically simplifying everything. 3 plus or minus. Let's see, that'd be 9. This would be a minus 8 divided by 4. And I just made up this question, but look at that. Square root of 1 is 1. So therefore you have 3 plus or minus 1 over 4. So 3 plus 1 is 4. Divided by 4 is 1. And 3 minus 1 is a negative. So let's see, x equals 4 over 4, and x equals -2 over 4. So x equals 1, and x equals -1/2. Okay, so there you go. Just make sure you do both of them. I'm not really sure what other questions you were asking regarding that, but hopefully that was helpful. Question number 11, interesting one here, is subtracting these. I don't think I remember subtracting radicals. So, I guess the main thing is when you have fractions, guys, you have to, get common denominators. So kind of like what we did above is you're going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. Here you're going to multiply the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. Since these don't have any factors in common, you're just going to multiply. The product is going to be the square root of 5 times the square root of 3, which is technically the square root of 15. So therefore, what I get now is the square root of 5 over the square root of 15 minus 2 radical 3 over the square root of 15. So now they have common denominators. So that's going to be the square root of 5 minus 2, square root of 3, over the square root of 15. Now, depending if you need to simplify your expression, you could also rationalize the denominator here by multiplying by a square root of 15 on top and bottom. Maybe that's what you're talking about up there. So it'd be square root of 5 minus 2, square root of 3. You could distribute this. I guess maybe let's just do that. Yeah, let's distribute that. Okay, so 5 times 15. That's going to be 50, 25, so that'd be 75. Oh, jeez. That could be simplified. Dang it. Minus 2, and that'd be what, 45? And divided by 15. Now we can simplify this. Dang it, man. I was like hoping this was a simpler problem, but now this can be simplified. That can be broken down into 25 times 2. The square root of 25 is 5 times the square root of 2. This can be broken down into 9 times 5. 9 Square root of 9 is 3, so 3 times 2 is a negative 6 times square root of 5 over 15. All right, so sorry I had to do some mental math in there to kind of get through this problem. Question number 12 says, what is the equation written in vertex form of the parabola with the vertex? So we have vertex form, so y equals a times x minus h, quantity squared plus k. All right, so that's going to be your h and that's your k. And then this is just a coordinate point xy. So just basically plug it in and then solve for a. So we have 70 equals a, which we don't know. X is going to be a negative 1 minus h, which is 4, quantity squared, plus negative 5 would just be a negative 5. So we'll add a 5. And 75 is equal to a times, let's see, negative 1 minus 5 is going to be negative 5. Negative 5 squared is going to be 25. And then divide by 25. Divide by 25, that's going to be in there 3 times. Okay, so now I can write the equation with the vertex and my value of a. So y is going to equal 3 times x minus 4 squared minus 5. There you go. All right, and then Tyson asked a question, well, at least gave me an equation. I have no idea what the question was. I'm not sure if it was graphing it. I'm not sure if it was identify the domain. I'm not sure if it was expand. So I'm just going to do the simplified problem, which would be ln is x plus 1 minus ln of x cubed plus 1. And that's about as further as you could expand it. If you were identifying the domain, you would want to know what this graph looks like, which is going to be all real numbers. But you could have x plus 1 over x cubed plus 1 has to be greater than 0. So I'm not sure what the question was. They just gave me an equation and said solve. So don't really know what to do, but I decided to add it into my notes. Malopan Jay said, I think this one was a solve. So I'm not going to solve it, at least all the way. I don't know. We'll see. But basically, you can see that this is going to multiply to give me a quadratic. And I think one of the main things, guys, if you need a quadratic, you got to set it equal to 0. It doesn't matter if you're going to use factoring or the quadratic formula. You have to have it set equal to 0. So let's go ahead and expand this. So remember 2y plus 3 squared is going to be 2y plus 3. So let's see. That's going to be a perfect square trinomial. So that would give me 4y squared. Let's see, that'd be 6y, so that'd be plus a 12y plus 9 equals 27y. Okay, so now we can subtract a 27. So now I have 0, I'll just put the 0 to the left, equals 4y squared. Let's see what that's going to be, a negative 15y plus 9. All right, so now I want to see if this is factorable. So let's see here. Could be factorable. It's going to be a sum, right? So the last number is a sum. So I'm going to look for 2y, maybe 2y. And then what two numbers multiply to give you 9? So that could be 9 and 1. Remember, you want these to add to give you a negative 15, right? So 3 and 3, that'd give you 6 and 6. That's not going to work. So the 2y and 2y is not going to work. So let's do a 4 and a 1, 4 and y. All right, and then here I can do 12 and 3, so that's going to work. Okay, so that'd be a minus 3 and a minus 3. Right, so that's 4y squared. That gives me a positive 9, negative 3. There you go, equals 0. So then you have 4y minus 3 equals 0, and y minus 3 equals 0. So y equals 3/4, and y equals 3. There you go. All right, another open time for you. And Lucas, you're such a good. Well, thank you very much. Glips, I feel like I ever should your own YouTube channel. Yeah, I think I'm not sure about the YouTube channel, but I think definitely every teacher is going to be much more accessible than I did. Find all the zeros. Dang it, I don't want to do that problem though. Garlic, but because yeah, that doesn't seem factorable. So therefore, what I would do is graph it. And actually, you know what? Let me just do an old school way. F of x equals x cubed minus 5x squared minus 22x plus 56. All right, so one of the things we could do is we could test this using our rational zero test, and that's what I'm going to do for you because I know that some of the rational zeros would be 1 or negative 1, and I'll try to see maybe if I can do that from there because this is non-factorable, or at least that I'm not seeing it being factorable. So therefore, I'm going to try a method to do. All right, so I will help you out, Garlic. Don't worry. All right, Hannah, wear masks all the time, but they're all your students sucked. Yeah, I mean, I think I just think for students that, people that want to teach and the students that, are not learning as much as they need to from their other teacher, like this could be helpful from there. Okay. All right. So this one, what we could do is we could use the rational zero test. Now I'm not going to go through all the rational zeros, but the rational zero test is basically your plus or minus your P. Well, I'm just going to write it down. So, okay. And that's going to be factors plus or minus of your P over your Q. Okay. So one thing you could do is you can always test if you can use synthetic division and it gives you a remainder of 0, that means that that means that value is a 0 of your polynomial. Well, two values that are always going to work for the rational zero test are 1 and -1. So let's go ahead and try those. So I'm going to do +1 and -1, and these usually can be done very, very quickly. So that's why it's like, it's not too difficult. And I can see also I could do 2 and -2. Those would also be two potential zeros. I just don't know how much time I have. So let's try these two. All right, so bring down the 1. We're going to do some synthetic division. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's say it's a -4. -4 times 1 is going to be a -4. Let's see, 22. That's going to be 44. That's going to be negative. Sorry. What am I doing? -4 to that. You add these up. So that's going to be a -26. And that gives you a -26, so that gives you a 30. So that doesn't work. And let's just pretend if that was a -1. Why do I keep on doing this? All right, so let's try this again now with a -1. I don't think this is going to work though. Bring down the 1. 1 times -1 is -1. That becomes a -6. -6 times 1 is going to be -6 times 1 is a +6. That's going to give you a -18. -18 times a -1 is going to be a +18. That's not going to work. Okay, so that's going to give you a remainder. Let's try 2. See what happens. All right, so it's 1, -5, -22, 56. All right, bring down the 1. 1 times 2 is 2. -3. -3 times 2 is going to be a -6. This is going to give you a -28. Oh no, -56. What do you know? That's a remainder. So again, these are going to be potential rational zeros. And the reason why these are rational zeros is because these are factors of your P over your Q. So I don't have time to go through the rational zero test, but typically 1 and -1 you can always test these. And then not always is 2 a possibility, but it works for this equation. So therefore, there is my remainder. So that's good. That's my constant. That's my linear, and that's my quadratic. So you have an x squared minus 3x minus 28. And if you need to find the remaining zeros, you need to say what two numbers multiply to give you a -28, and then add to give you a -3. So 7 and 4 looks like it, right? So what about x minus 7 times a x minus 4? So therefore, my zeros are x equals 2, right? Because that one worked through the remainder. Actually, let's do it here. So 2, 7, and 4. Because if you were to set these equal to 0 and solve, that's what you get. So there you go. I haven't done that in a while, but glad that one was quick. What is the equivalent to a logarithmic function? So again, let's just make this easy. If I had 2 to the x equals 8, right, I can rewrite that as a log by log base 2 of 8 equals x. Okay, so therefore that's going to be my base of my logarithm, which is only this answer or this answer. So it's not these two. And then my argument here goes right in front there, just like the 8. So answer C. Miriam was asking this one. I think the main thing you need to do as far as finding the radians, I don't remember. I did a problem like this a little bit more. There's two formulas you're going to want. You're going to want to know the area of the sector, which I do not recall, so I do apologize for that. And then to find the radians, though, you're going to do S equals R times theta. So you have all the information you need there, right? You have S, which is the arc length, so that's 9.6. You have the radius, which is 12 centimeters, and then times theta. So that's going to be your radians. So theta equals 9.6 times 12 centimeters, okay? And then you can use that for your area of the sector. So you're going to want to find the area of the sector. The next thing I would say you're going to want to do is find the triangle, find the area of the triangle, right? Because obviously to find the the difference, the shaded area, you're going to take the area of the triangle minus the area of the sector. Well, the one thing I notice here is if that's 12, right? So if this is 12, and then here is going to be basically your theta divided by 2, right? Your rating divided by 2. And then from there, you can basically use trig to find your to find these sides, and therefore then you could use the formula for the area of a triangle. You know, area equals 1/2 base times height. So I don't have time to do that problem. It's a very, lengthy problem, at least from what I'm seeing. But hopefully that gives you a good setup. All right, question number 18 says, which of the following is an example of a polynomial function? So a polynomial function cannot have rational powers or have negative powers. So not that one, that's negative powers. Here it has, I'm sorry, not negative powers, that's rational powers. A fraction, or I'm sorry, a square root is the same thing as x to the 1/2. So that doesn't work. That's a negative power. Here it's a square root, but it's for the coefficient, not for the variable. So B is your answer. Number 19, why is determining the zeros of the polynomial function important to sketching the graph? Well, because the zeros are going to be the x-intercepts. Like that's where the graph crosses the x-axis. And that's kind of like what we did at the beginning of this, lesson. Like if I know the end behavior, right, and I know the y-intercept, like the only thing left I need to know is like, does the graph cross the x-axis? Like it doesn't have to, right? I mean, it could look like that. I don't know what the graph looks like. But the important thing is like, if I know like the graph only crosses here and here, right, then I can identify the behavior of the graph. And again, the other thing that's important about the determining the zeros is also knowing the multiplicity. Multiplicity, remember, is the behavior. So if it's even, it bounces. And if it's odd, it crosses. So I don't have time to talk about, the multiplicity and, all those kind of things. But like, let's say the multiplicity here is 2. And then here it's odd. Like here it's multiplicity equals 1. And the multiplicity equals like 3 or something. So remember, if it's even, like it's going to bounce like this. Then here it could cross. And here it could, look like a cubic like that. Like kind of like, this kind of looks weird. But the important thing here is like that tells you, like, I mean, that gives you the behavior. It also tells you if the graph is positive or negative, like if it's below or above the x-axis. So, I mean, understanding the intercepts is very, very important to understanding what the graph is going to look like. All right, let's take another quick little break and get back into the chat for you guys on there. Sorry, I haven't been able to get to all of them, but I have been able to get to a lot of your questions. So I have, let's see, 24 more questions, 25. Oh, geez, 26. Oh, almost there, almost done. All right, I got to finish by 10:30. That's my new one. Hi, Mr. McLogan. I'm in 7th grade and I subscribed when I noticed your Sigma video, which was too informing. Well, very happy to be able to help you out, David. All right, well, best of luck, random doys. Sandip. What was the number? X. Mario Judah. Neo Nevin. I've always wanted to say thank you. Your videos have changed how I saw math. So glad that I got to thank you at last. Well, thank you, Neo. I very, very much appreciate that. I'm glad my videos have been able to help you out. Caution, then use calc for the rest. Yes, calculus makes things a lot easier a lot of the times. Awesome, Kooks. Well, congrats to you. Good job. Jack Daniel, did he say about cheating using notes? I just tuned in. Well, hey, Jack Daniel. Yes, I have been going live for just about an hour and 24 minutes. So if you are interested in checking what I talked about at the beginning, you can just go back to the beginning of the stream. If you're interested to see what questions I've already answered so far, after this live stream has been posted, I will have everything timestamped for you probably within the week. So therefore, you guys can always go back through the timestamps and check it out. Infinite many solutions. Okay. I have a question about infinite many solutions. Well, I don't know what your question is. So what's your question, Aldo? I have your problem here, but like, what do you want to know? 20x plus 25y equals 45. Let's see if you, see if you respond, if there's anything. No. Okay. Oh, well, awesome. Jenny, good for you. Congrats. All right, so let's go ahead and I guess I'll just do this problem then for you. So in this case, if we want to get the same coefficient, I'm assuming these are going to have no solution. Or sorry, you said infinite many solutions. Yeah, so if it says infinite many solutions, that means they're exactly the same line. Okay, so it might not look obvious that they're the exact same line. I'm not really sure. The main thing we want to do is be able to get the coefficient the same. So for this example, we're going to multiply by scalars. So I think the common multiple I would see would be 40. So I'd multiply this by 5 and then multiply this by 2. So make sure when you're creating equivalent equations, you multiply everything. So this would be a 40x plus 50y equals, let's see, 36. That's going to be 72. That'd be 108. And this would be a 40x. Let's do a negative. I like adding them. So that'd be a negative 40x. This would be a negative 50y equals a negative 2, which would be a negative 90. This looks like no solutions if I was doing this correctly, which I'm pretty sure that's not going to be 90. So no, wait. Oh, I did do that wrong. I'm an idiot. Because 5 times 18. So 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 8 is 40. So yeah, that is 90. There you go. All right, so that gives you a 0x plus 0y equals 0. So 0 equals 0. So it's true no matter what values of x or y, you're always going to get an equation that's equal to the other side. So therefore, they're the exact same. So they're always true. So I'm not sure what you're looking for on this, but a lot of times when you have infinite many solutions, you're going to get like an x equals x or 3 equals 3, you know, or whenever you get an equation that's always true, they're the same line. Repeated multiplication is we're going to use an exponent 3. This was kind of interesting. It says, you know, how do you get x squared? Well, that means that's x and x, right? Well, if this is x, then that has to be a 1. And that means that has to be 1. So really, you're just asking for x plus 1 times x plus 1, which is going to give me a here. A. That's it. We're all done. All right. Thank you so much, Denise and Aldo and Finn. I'm confused because I'm unfamiliar with the equation. Yeah, that is linear. If your variable x or y is raised to the first power, then it's going to be a linear equation. Do you truly love math? I like that question. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I'm not like a math professor, like I study it, you know, as my like job, right? You know, it's like I don't have like my life dedicated to the study of mathematics. So I do love math, appreciate math, and find it very rewarding and interesting to keep on, you know, going back to. But yeah, you know, it's not like a complete passion of mine, you know. But I do think we give it a big disservice. And I think one of the main motivations is not so much math, but the fact of I love seeing students overcome a lot of their struggles with mathematics, as well as improving the way that students understand and approach mathematics. You know, it really bothers me, really bothers me, the fact that so many people hate math. And it's not math's fault. It's not their fault usually. It's usually the systems and the way that we teach math that I think is such a disservice to students, you know? And so that's, I would say, a little bit more of my passion than just math. You know, I mean, yes, I do love math, and I do wish, you know, I was kind of sad to get away from teaching or to become a teacher, because I wanted to actually continue my education. Like I wanted to keep on learning math. Like once you get up to a certain level in mathematics, I was like, holy crap, I just want to keep on like learning this stuff, you know, like this is really cool stuff. So, you know, that was one thing I kind of put on the back burner, you know, once I became a teacher. But there's other things that I, you know, now have found that I'm like, wow, that's really cool that I can continue, you know, helping students, you know, with the math or giving them, you know, have them enjoy learning mathematics or feel that they actually are capable of learning math. And I think some of those things I'm a little bit more passionate about even than just even learning, you know, some of the math topics that we never really use in real life, right? We all know, but there's just some cool things that that we get to investigate and learn about in learning math that I think is so cool. But yeah, I think really having students have that connection, that personal connection and relationship with math is a little bit more of a passion of mine. And obviously that's because I want to become a teacher, right? Rather than just stay at the university continuing studying math. So that was a really long answer for something really simple. But anyways, guys, I am up way too late. I got to go. But thank you so much, guys, for joining in on my stream tonight. I really do appreciate it. I will be again going live next Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you do have any questions for me, you can go ahead and submit them into the Google form in the description below. Also, feel free to go ahead and join my Discord server where you can help other students with their math, as well as submit your own questions to get them helped. Just remember to keep things short and simple, and also to be polite to others, as we are all here for the same reasons, to help or to help others. But then again, guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great week. And if you do have an exam this week, I wish you the very best. I do have a checklist for exam worksheets that are down in my description below that you can also go ahead and checklist to get yourself set up. So otherwise, guys, have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Hi, Fazal. I see you.